Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahashem, YAHAWASHI, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash, and double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace, love, salutations, and blessings to the house of David, which is the elect. I just wanted to get into a quick news update. All right, got a couple things real quick. This first thing you see on the screen is a tweet based off of something Trump was saying earlier today. As you see, it says, Trump, this is a transition period. Okay, so he is calling, this time period of, this economic instability, right? The market volatility. All right, the trust and confidence in the monetary system waning, right? He's calling all this a transition period. Now, when you think about what that means, as in what is it transitioning to or from? Well, it's transitioning from the current global or geoeconomic system and way things are currently, being operated. And I have an article here also coming from Russia Today, which, I'm gonna get into this. It says World Economic World Economic Order undergoing major reset. Okay. So that word reset, as we know, since 2020, has been, a buzzword, amongst the, the global elites, right? The rulers of this world, okay? Because they have a agenda, right? An enterprise to reset, the world order, okay? And when you go into this word reset, let's just look it up, see what it comes. It says to set again or differently. Okay. So that is what they, ultimately want to do, right? They want to set up a different system. All right. And in order to do that, they have to do what? Bring in a reason to reset. Okay. And that reason is what is being undertaken right now, right? This shakeup, all right, of the current, system. So, what's happening isn't something that is going to be, as you say, as they say, it's not going to be a soft landing, right? It's not going to be something that, you're just be able to get through without really any worries or any type of setbacks. Okay. What they're attempting to do is reset the whole entire world order so that they could bring in that charagma, okay, which would be the new form of currency exchange, right? Buying and selling. And that is, what John the Revelator saw as being the mark of the beast, okay, which would be the last prophecy before the end of this age, right? Before the end of this world. Okay. And that's why you're seeing this whole economic order reset happening at the same time where you have this push for digital currency to be at the forefront, right? Which you just had today. Trump just, let's actually see, Trump, say SEC chair and pro crypto. So you have, let's see, we got news. Right. So as you see, pro crypto Paul Atkins officially sworn in as SEC chairman, right? All right. So let's see who this guy is and what is he about. It says Paul Atkins brings experience in digital asset strategy to his new role at the SEC. Right? Paul Atkins, President Trump appointee to chair of U.S. Securities and Exchange Commissions, was formally sworn into office on April 21st, a recognized supporter of crypto and financial innovation. Atkins assumes the SEC's 34th chairman and confirmed by the agency. All right, so this guy, that is the newest, SEC chairman. He is pro crypto, and if you have noticed that Trump has been, aligning himself with in his cabinet with many people that are pro, crypto, pro digital currency, et cetera, et cetera. So as you're seeing the economic world order undergoing a major reset, and you're seeing the instability and the chaos, that is fomenting, because of the volatility of Trump's, trade tariffs and his, rhetoric, all of that, which is causing uncertainty, right? All of that is purposefully done in order to, crumble or collapse this current world economic order. Now, before I read that, I wanted to play this. Now, this was at the World Government Summit, right? And this was back in 2022, where you had the now former head of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, which, he just stepped down effective immediately yesterday, right? Very odd, or shall I say, very interesting timing, for him to step down and from his role here as the World Economic Forum. He is the one that, initially brought out that verbiage of the Great Reset. All right. And, that isn't something that was just about, lockdowns. OK, that played that was a small portion of it. But when you go into it, that was really a test run. OK, it really was a simulation on a global scale to see how effective they could get people to lockdown. OK, not moving, not going places. Right. Then they brought in the track and trace. OK, if you remember that. All right. Because of the, the 1-9, they wanted to track and trace people in their movements. OK. And then also they brought in that, the dragon juice, which the dragon juice was something that they put into people that people had no, real understanding what it was. It was done quickly. And remember, Trump toted how it was under his administration that they had that, up and running within 6 months, which was an unprecedented speed, which he deemed Operation Warp Speed. OK, they had the capability of creating a dragon juice, and they was, had people put that into them, not really knowing the repercussions or not knowing the what long-term effects or any of that, right? And and you had a lot of individuals, but I was brought out, celebrities, a lot of politicians and things like that were coming out and trying to persuade. Right. I remember Cuomo, the Andrew Cuomo, the old governor of New York. This guy went on television and ate a burger and fries, ate a burger and fries as it was enticing people to take the dragon juice, and saying that if you take the dragon juice, you would get, free burgers and fries. Right. They even had it to where they said that you would get free weed, if I'm not mistaken. So all of that was, like I said, that was just a simulation of, on a global scale to see how many people, how well it was a live, right, a live active drill to see how many people would submit, would fall into, adhering what the governments of the worlds are telling you, which, the governments of the worlds was really being orchestrated and pushed by the NGOs, right? The non-government organizations, right? Like your World Government Summit, your World Economic Forum, right? Your WHODAT, et cetera, et cetera. So that reset wasn't just then. That was just, like I said, that was a live, active simulation drill. Okay. But the reset is ultimately bringing in this new system, okay, of, being able to link your identification, digitally, right, through the mark of the beast, which is the implantable RFID micro C-hip. Okay, whether or not you got camps like IUIC that are now changing up the doctrine, once again remixing it, but now they're speaking more about the ID part of it, but they're not telling you or how that digital ID is going to be administered. All right, they're telling you though the ID, right? This digital ID is going to be a part of the beast system, and that is going to be the way you're going to have to buy and sell, which is a change up from what they originally said. It was, like I said, they've changed it so many times, right? They've said it was the mark of the beast, right? They've said it was sin. Okay, they said all these different things, but now as the picture is becoming more plainer, even though they're not making it plain amongst the tables, because they're not giving to the sheep, right, to the listeners straight, telling you that that digital ID is going to be instituted through the microchip, right? And the microchip is a what? RFID, radio frequency identification. And it also, you got near frequency NFCs, right? Near frequency communication. But those devices are linked to also identification. See? And the reason why it's radio frequency and near frequency communication, because that is the part where you're able to track and trace. Okay, which once again was a part of the simulation live action drill that took place during the lockdowns in 2020 to 2021 and 2. Okay, so the men of the Lord, all right, that are diligently and sincerely feeding the sheep are going to tell you, make it plain upon the tables and let you know that this, what you're seeing and taking place, is all a part of this devil's agenda to, ultimately, bring in this system to where you will have to make this covenant with him through the cutting of your flesh. Okay, because as the scripture says, he sets his mind as the mind of God, right? And as the children of Israel, the children of the Most High, right, we have had an entering of the first covenant was through the cutting of the flesh, the foreskin, right? And the entering of the second covenant was through the shedding of the blood, right, through the cutting of YAHAWASHI's flesh. See? And ultimately, we're at that point where we're waiting to be fully fully endowed, right, or fully married in a sense, right, fully married to Yahawashi, okay, once he returns, which is why Paul said, I have espoused you, right? Let's pull that up. I've espoused you to one husband. 2 Corinthians 11 verse 2, it says, "For I am jealous over you with a godly jealousy, for I have espoused you to one husband, that I may present you as a chaste virgin to Hamashiach," right? And that word espoused is what? Likened unto betrothed, right? Or, engaged, right? See, to betroth to one, to give one in marriage to another, right? To betroth a daughter. All right, to woo, betroth. Let's see, with a joint. Okay, so we're espoused. We're in this joining period. That's why when YAHAWASHI comes, the scripture says that what the bride, right, the marriage supper of the Lamb, because the bride has made herself ready. Okay, and those where you go, Revelation 19 verse 7. Let us be glad and rejoice and give honor to him, for the marriage of the Lamb is come, and his wife, which is who? The elect, that is betrothed unto the Lord, right, hath made herself ready. And this is the time period, this grace period, as you read in Matthew's the 25th chapter, of those wise virgins that was trimming their lamps, that was waiting, okay, for the bridegroom, okay, and we spiritually are making ourselves ready through, the process of, walking this walk, okay, maintaining our faith, okay, keeping the word of his patience, right, giving the warning unto our people, right, taking off the old man, taking off the old woman, right, denouncing, the things of this world. All right, I did a video yesterday, talking about the 2 days ago rather, the purging process. You see, so this devil, he wants to do that also on the left hand side, right? He wants to enter into a covenant with with you through the cutting of your flesh, which is through that charagma. And in order to do that, he has to do what? Reset this system. Okay, so let's listen to this. Like I said, this is Klaus Schwab speaking back in 2022, but these words are even more active, right, and even more, relevant now.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor to participate for the 8th time at this important meeting, even if only in a virtual way. I would like to express my high respect to His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum for having taken the initiative for creating such an important global platform for governments shaping the future. I also want to congratulate Dubai for having organized such a successful World Expo despite all the repercussions of the global pandemic. Last November, in partnership with His Excellency Mohammed Al-Gargawi, we brought together 60 top intellectual thinkers here in Dubai. Thank you to His Excellency for enabling this initiative to define a longer-term narrative to make the world more resilient, more inclusive, and more sustainable. With all the current issues on our agenda, we tend to forget that we are in the midst of the 4th Industrial Revolution, which accelerates global change in much more comprehensive and faster ways than the previous 3 revolutions.
Now, you heard that? Okay, we're in the midst. Now, this is back in 2022, right? But he said that we were in the midst of the 4th Industrial Revolution, which accelerates, comprehensive change. See, and that is what, Trump and his agenda, his administration, that it's all a part of that. Remember, Trump, he spoke at this year's World Economic Forum, right? And he did also, in his previous administration as well. So you got this notion, right? Is just a big illusion that he is against the globalist agenda, right? He is against the so-called deep state. All that is a farce. Okay, and you have a lot of these, so-called patriotic nationalist Edomites that are all falling for it. But that's a part of, the plan as well, because they want to create a social division, a social, divide, okay, between, certain mindsets in America. All right, because they need the disorder, right? They need the crisis in order to capitalize on the ability to bring in this change, right? I always mention what King Charles said in 2020, at one of these, economic global forums, that they need to change the will of people, right? They need to captivate the imagination of the people to change their will. All right, people, and he says that people people don't want change, right, unless they're forced to have it. So, roughly paraphrase it. You see? So this, what you're seeing with the whole, markets, dropping 1,000 points, going up 800, dropping 1,500 points, going up 5. It's that is all doing what is creating an instability, uncertainty, all right, along with the trade tariffs and Trump, being erratic and fickle, right, in his policies. All of that is just creating more and more instability. Okay, which is also accelerating, as he just said, this systemic, right, world order change.
History is truly at a turning point.
So that goes also into what Trump said about transition period, right? So this is a transition period. See?
We do not yet know the full extent and the systemic and structural changes which will happen. However, we do know that global energy systems, food systems, and supply chains will be deeply affected.
Now listen to that. The global energy systems, the food systems, and the supply chains will be deeply affected. Deeply affected. You think it's going to be deeply affected in a positive way? And you can already see how these tariffs, remember, these tariffs are only on pause. Now, once again, Trump is talking about, he's going to lower the tariffs with China. He's going to make deals, and we're going to see what happens. But ultimately, right, when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction shall come upon them. And all he's really been doing is just talking, right? But the actions are speaking louder because, people are getting fired, right? His ratings approval is dropping because he's not making good on what he said he was going to do, right? People is losing their 401k, people losing, their pensions. Okay, they're about to start garnishing paychecks, because of the student loan defaults. So it's a lot of different stresses that is, coming down the pipeline. But all the while he is talking about, oh yeah, we're going to, people have so much money that they're not going to know what to do with it. Well, that's not what, these organizations are speaking about. Okay, they're saying something completely different than what Trump is toting.
In times of crisis, the role of governments is more important and more relevant than ever. What is also needed is a summit like this one to go beyond crisis management and to look into constructive ways we can build our common future. Our futures are intrinsically connected to one another. We have to uphold our responsibility, which we have towards the next generation, and which we can only fulfill through collaboration on a national and on a global level. I wish you an impactful.
See? So they want, as he's saying, a collaboration on a national and global level. Okay. So this is why this system, okay, which is, this beast system is something that, as the scripture says, is going to cause all. Okay. He causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive that charagma in their right hands or hands or in their forehead. All right. And as he just said, that they're trying to do this in this generation so that they can set up the next generation. So that is why YAHAWASHI spoke about that all these things are going to come to pass, or rather, that this generation shall not pass until all be fulfilled. Right. Let's pull that. Matthew 24. Matthew chapter 24, verse 34, it says, "Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled." So that's the same, and this is why he's speaking like this, Mr. Egghead, because what YAHAWASHI prophesied about, right, that time of trouble, the time like none other, right, is what these devils are bringing forth. Okay, which he just mentioned, as we heard, what he said, the supply chain, the food systems, and the energy systems are going to be deeply impacted. Okay. And that's going to cause what? All hell to break loose. When you have prices, at an all-time high in hyperinflation, right? When you have energy, which is your gas, your electricity, those things are being rationed. Okay. That's not something that the advanced economies like America, that's not something that they're used to. You just had over there in Puerto Rico a whole blackout right on the whole city. Now that's something that has been happening over the past couple years, I believe, since one of the hurricanes took place. In their their energy grid hasn't really been fixed since that point. Okay, but imagine that happening in Babylon, in different parts, different states, different cities, different regions, where you just have lights out for weeks on end. Okay, so this is what they're talking about. Or food, your food trucks is only coming in once every 2 weeks into your city. People are going to lose their mind, and the scripture speaks about those times. See, so let's read this. It says, this is a short article, so I'm going to run right through it. It says, the International Monetary Fund has slashed its 2025 outlook on global growth. The International Monetary Fund has cut its global growth forecast, saying that the global economic system is undergoing a fundamental transformation amid mounting uncertainty over U.S. trade policy. Since returning to office in January, U.S. President Donald Trump has imposed sweeping trade restrictions, culminating in what he calls a Liberation Day tariffs introduced on April 2nd. The tariffs have been raised to levels not seen since the Great Depression. Interesting. And there was another article that spoke about the Great Depression in the stock market, right? Show you this real quick. I'm not going to read it. Pull it up. Let's see. Let's do it this way. Oh, here we go. Let's put that there. It says Dow headed for worst April since 1932, and investors send no confidence signal. Okay. In 1932, around that time, right, was where the Great Depression took place. So what is looking, the stock market is looking as bad as it did since the Great Depression, which is why you just had here. It said it has not been raised to levels since the Great Depression. The IMF said on Tuesday in releasing its latest World Economic Outlook. The reports projects that global outputs will slow to 2.8% this year, down from 3.3 in 2024. As recently as in January, the IMF had forecast growth would hold steady in 2025. The global economic system, under which most countries have operated for the last 80 years, is being reset, ushering the world into a new era. Now, the last 80 years is speaking about, they didn't just throw that number, that time frame out for no reason. Because when you go into, let's just type in, how long ago was World War II? Let's see. No. So World War II was between 1939 and 1945. All right. It says how many days since the end of World War II was 79 years, 7 months, and 20 days. So roughly about 80 years, right, is when World War II ended. And when World War II ended, that ushered in a new era, right, of a global economic system. So now that global economic system is being reset, you see, and it's ushering in a new era. And that new era is also going to come to fruition through another war. But this war isn't going to be like the first two wars, because as the scriptures tells us that this war is going to be a war that YAHAWASHI and the heavenly host is going to enter in. So yeah, it is going to be a new era, right? But it's not going to be one that is controlled or ruled by any heathen nation. Because as the scripture says that in the days, Daniel, the 2nd chapter, in the days of these kings, right? Speaking about the 10 toes, which, is the kingdom of the NATO and the EU, right? Which the whore America rides upon. Okay. The Lord is going to do do something during those days. So you read it, it says, in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. The kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest, the stone was cut out of the mountain without hand, right? Without hands, and that it break in pieces the iron and the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, representing all of these various different heathen power structures. The great God, Yahawah, hath made known to the king, which was Nebuchadnezzar at this time, what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof is sure. So what Daniel saw, right, was what Nebuchadnezzar saw was a actual vision, okay, of the future. And Daniel says that the interpretation of that is sure, meaning he broke it down correctly. So the fact that now we are in a time of these 10 toes, and we're seeing that this is moving toward another shift, right? Another era, but that era is going to usher in the return of YAHAWASHI, because during this, change, right? Economic global change that they're trying to implement, they're going to go to a point where YAHAWASHI is going to have to come and to deliver his elect, so that we, right, Lord willing, we'll be a part of that number. Okay. So that we won't be, subdued, right, by this devil through his pressuring of the world to take that charagma. Because as YAHAWASHI said, if he did not shorten the days, there will be no flesh saved. You see, there will be no flesh saved, because what Esau is planning is to make the sea hipping a mandate for everybody and for generations to come. So it's not just people now, but even people that are, born in the future. They're going to have to be born and merged with technology, right? Which you already see that is being spoken about. The AI merging with humans, right? Symbiosis and all these things. So this is the last generation that we're living in. You had Klaus Schwab, you had Elon Musk, right? Speak about how in the next 10 years, majority of the world would be having some type of embedded device inside of them. All right. So what happens in the next 20 years, right? What happens when this generation of people, live long enough to perish, and then everybody else after that is just going to now just be born with C hips. See, the Lord isn't going to deliver, as the scriptures tells you, the punishment of taking a microchip is to be burnt in the second death. So there can't be a time where people are just, a generation where everybody just has a C hip, because then there will be no flesh for YAHAWASHI to save. So it's this generation that we're living in now that is the generation where YAHAWASHI is going to come to deliver the elect. And this is why we have this knowledge. This is why we have this truth. This is why we have the names in this generation, why you have all of the prophets in this generation. Okay. It says he explained that existing rules are being challenged. While new ones have yet to take shape, right? And the new rules is going to be, once again, all must take that C hip in order to buy or sell. Okay. In order to be partaking in the agora or the marketplace, you're going to have to, fully integrate into this new digital system, right? Using crypto, currency as the medium of exchange. It says the sudden tariff hikes and broader policy uncertainty could significantly slow global growth. The IMF lowered its forecast for U.S. economic output to 1.8% in 2025, down from 2.8%, 8% last year, and projected further cooling in 2026. Boom. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This is going into, the various different tariffs and etc. But all in all, as you've seen, the IMF, speaking about how this era is ending and a new one is formulating. Okay. And, it's undergoing a major reset. So, I just wanted to touch on that because all these things are connected. Right. And as the scriptures tells us that we have to, be vigilant. Right. We have to be sober, right. Being circumspect, understanding what the will of the Lord is. Right. Let's see what comes up there. Yep. Ephesians 5, verse 17. Start at 15. It says, see then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, right? Not as those that are, of the night, that are drunk in the night. Okay. Not just thinking, oh, things are just going to continue as they were. Right. Or hey, this is just the government knows what's best. I'm just going to trust the government, or thinking, oh, they would never do something like that. OK, that's a foolish mindset to have. But see, only the ones that are blind, only the ones that are simple. Right. The scripture tells you that how the prudent foreseeth the evil and hideth themselves, but the simple pass on and are punished. So we have to walk circumspectly because the Lord has given us the mercy, the grace of this knowledge, of this truth. And we have to have the mindset to know that, yeah, we're in the times where we're going to have to be as pilgrims on the earth. We're in the times where things are going to change, right? Life is going to get harder. But YAHAWASHI said that he's going to keep us in these times, right? You're going to see, death, okay, on mass scale. You're going to see pandemonium. You're going to see chaos, instability, okay? Things that here in Babylon, the great people, think are just a something that you see on TV. Okay, they think the purge is just, theatrics. Nah, that's something that is going to be live and direct reality. Okay, and if you have that understanding, then there's a certain type of mindset you're going to be in, a certain type of way you're going to conduct yourself, right? It says redeeming the time because the days are evil. All right. The evil meaning bad times. So what are you going to, what should you be doing with the times that you have before all hell breaks loose, right? You're supposed to be using this time wisely. Okay. Giving all diligence to make your calling and election sure, right? Watching and praying so that you may be found worthy to stand before YAHAWASHI and to escape all of these things. See, that is what redeeming the time is. You're supposed to be doing, not trying to, fulfill the lust of your flesh. Okay. Not trying to build a community, right? Not trying to link the doctrine with false ideologies. Okay. Not trying to make it here in Babylon the Great. The scriptures tells you that this place is polluted. All right. Verse 17, wherefore be ye not unwise. Okay. Once again, a wise man, right, will look well into his going. Okay. So wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. All right. And the will of the Lord, as it is written, is to bring, this judgment. Okay. He's going to allow the Esau to do this, his last push. But ultimately, that is for the elect to get the victory and for Esau to ultimately get his judgment in this age and his kingdom to be destroyed. And those that join hand in hand with it, those that go down to Egypt for help, those that trust in the shadow of Pharaoh, is going to be to your destruction, to your confusion, to your shame. But when you understand what the will of the Lord is, it doesn't matter what you hear, right, from these politicians. Doesn't matter what these false pastors and preachers and teachers are telling you. You understand that the will of the Lord is to bring this hell, this destruction, right, and to set up the kingdom of heaven on earth, which is the kingdom of Israel, headed by YAHAWASHI and the house of David. And that is going to come by way of the complete destruction of this age, as we just read in Daniel, the 2nd chapter. All right. And the mark of the beast is a part of that reasoning why this place is going to be destroyed. World War III, along, spearheaded by Russia, Iran, the 48ers, going against the 48ers, and Babylon the Great. OK, and the other NATO countries turning on America. All these things is written. All right. And the Lord has brought the prophets out to give the understanding. So you cannot say that you were not aware, that you were not told. You see, so, with that, I'm going to end it there. Lord willing, this was edifying and exhorting to the elect. In closing, giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Ba'ashem Yahawashi, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Till next time, Shalom.